Right. Time for the UFN predictions, and I have to say the card's not as good as Affliction. I shall start with bouts that I'm not interested in: Dale Hart and Shannon Geraghty, Brad Blackburn and James Gilboo, Johnny Rees and Nate Logren. I'm not interested in those at all. Okay, Brody Farber, not to be confused with Uriah Faber, although I pronounce it Farber. Brody actually has an R in the name. Although he comes from California, he's no relation. Not that I asked or anything, but actually I did ask, and yes, he's no relation. 13-3 with 7 submissions. Has one loss to Sean Shirk, but it was back in 2004. I need my pen because I haven't made my prediction. Rory Markham, 15-4 with 10 TKOs. He's only lost by TKO as well. So it's classic sort of stand-up versus ground. I'm going to go with Markham here and say that it will be a TKO. I'll put it in round 2. CB Dollaway and Jesse Taylor. Now, I wonder why, after Amir Stoller was the winner of Tough, why CB Dollaway and Jesse Taylor are both fighting again so soon. I wonder why Jesse Taylor, after having been chucked off the show, is being given this second chance after the disgraceful display we saw from him with vandalism and harassing women whilst drunk. And people like Mike Dolce, for example, are nowhere to be seen in the UFC. I'm sorry, but that absolutely sucks. Taylor is 6'2", and he's the drunk that dear old Dana White said wasn't ready for the big game, although now suddenly he's appeared on this big game card. And CB Dollaway is the sort of foul-mouthed individual who's 6'1", and it's. I hope that Jesse Taylor doesn't win, because I don't think he should have been given the second chance being on the card in the first place. I think that's appalling. In terms of the management and their pastoral care towards him. I think it's appalling in terms of completely undermining what White said on the Tough. I don't think he deserves to have a second chance. Not when you consider that he quite deliberately threw his opportunity away, and some of the other sort of fighters who had a run of bad luck during the show are nowhere to be seen. No, I'm sorry, he shouldn't be there. So, and CB Dollaway, well, he's not much better, to be totally honest, but we have to pick one. And so I'm going to predict a win by Dollaway. I hope it goes to, I don't know. I'm not going to say predict what, I don't really care. But there we are. I just think that's really, really messed up, that. Anthony Johnson versus Kevin Burns. This is Anthony Johnson with record 5-1, who practically decapitated Tommy Spear in his last outing. He's a KO expert who falls to submissions, but also managed to beat Chad Rayner, who has 9 submissions. He's being put up against Kevin Burns, who is a submission specialist with a record of 6-1. But I don't think he's going to be strong enough to beat Johnson. I don't think he's quite a can, because it is obviously very close in records, and it is ground fighter versus a stand-up. So I don't think this is a ploy. I just don't think he's going to be strong enough. So I shall go for Johnson. TKO. Round 1 again. Cain Velasquez, 3-0, all by TKOs, versus Jake O'Brien at 10-1, who's mainly also scored with TKOs, but that includes his one loss. With his loss being to Andrei Arlovsky, of course, that changes things. I'm going to go for his win. TKO in round 3. Hermes Franca is back from having admitted doing steroids and been off for ages. He is back to fight Frank Edgar, 8-1. Now, Frank Edgar has the remarkable ability to beat fighters like Tyson Griffin and Spencer Fisher and do it by a decision. So, can Hermes Franca... Well, Franca has been out for a very, very long time, hasn't he? So I shall go for Edgar on this one. I shall go for Edgar via decision. But it wouldn't surprise me if Franca won and finished him. It would not surprise me at all. But that will be my decision. That will be my prediction, sorry. Right, Brandon Vera versus Rhys Andy. Now, I have met Brandon Vera from afar. He's 8-2 and he's on a 2-loss streak at the moment. It's funny because I shall come to this in a minute, but and his 2-loss streak is to Sylvia and Verdun. Rhys Andy I really, really like, so I'm not going to predict this one. Now, the interesting thing about this, because the next fight on the list, of course, is Anderson Silva versus James Irvin. Now, Brandon Vera's last loss was against Verdun, and Verdun claimed that Vera had been basically verbally submitting. Of course, Verdun doesn't really understand English, and Brandon Vera was speaking in English, and Brandon Vera was not verbally submitting at all. In fact, he was saying quite the opposite. This little accidental "I don't quite understand" is I think mirrored in this the other fight, Anderson Silva and James Irvin, because Anderson Silva has recently been asked, as he's facing James Irvin in a different weight category, if he's going to go after the belt. And Silva said he's not going after the belt because the belt belongs to Mikada. Now, the belt has nothing to do with Mikada at the moment, who's the most boring fighter on the planet, because Rampage has just given it up and Griffin has just got it. What Anderson Silva probably means is that as Mikada is going to be in contendership very shortly, he's going to not basically get in Mikada's way because he doesn't deserve it. And whilst that's a very fantastic attitude to take, the translation into English can be interpreted as being a little bit of a slight against the champions that have and are on the podium in the division he's just entering today. And it's all because these fighters don't speak English. Now, I've got no problem against people who don't speak English. However, this is being marketed to a vastly English-speaking population, and it is difficult for us to understand and assess their character if we cannot understand the precise meaning of what they're saying, and we can't, because half the time they're speaking through interpreters, and we're trusting the interpreter of what they're actually saying. And it gets difficult when Verdun says, "Oh, no, he was saying, I quit," and Vera was saying, "Actually, I wasn't." And Anderson Silva saying, "Well, the title belongs to Mikada," and it doesn't. It belongs to Griffin at present. And it's not easy, and I just think that if they are going, particularly if they are at championship level, particularly Silva, who has also fought in cage rage in England, they should speak English. I'm sorry, but George St. Pierre manages it, and that's my opinion. I just think it's I just think they should speak English.